Plant reproduction life cycle notes. Make sure you have this note-taking sheet in front of you before you begin. There are 4 steps or stages to flowering plant life cycle. Those stages include germination, plant development, fertilization, and seed production. Germination is step 1, and basically that's when a seed begins to sprout. So seeds can stay dormant for long periods of time until conditions become right, and then they start to sprout. Basically what happens in germination is that roots grow down, stems and leaves then are going to grow up, as you can see here.
To grow, every seed needs a place where the temperature is right and there is enough water and oxygen. Sunlight isn't always necessary for germination to take place. When conditions are favorable, the seed will begin to absorb water and the embryo will begin to consume its stored food. As more water is absorbed, pressure builds and the seed breaks open. Then the plant's first root begins to emerge from the seed.
It's kind of creepy looking, isn't it? The roots are growing down,
the soil,
stems and leaves grow up.
as a way to absorb more water and minerals. While the plant's roots grow downward, its stem grows upward and its leaves grow out. Growing toward the light enables the young plant's new leaves to capture the sun's energy. As sunlight strikes the leaves, photosynthesis takes place, producing food, which plant cells process and turn into energy. The new plant will be able to carry out photosynthesis as long as it has water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide from the air. During photosynthesis, the plant will produce oxygen as a waste product. If the environmental conditions remain suitable, the plant will continue to grow and to thrive. Eventually, it will begin to produce seeds of its own.
Step 2, plant development. Basically the plant is simply maturing or becoming bigger, and parts are developing or structures are developing that will allow it to produce more plants. And the main structure that we'll talk about in terms of plant reproduction is going to be the flower. Step 3 is fertilization. Fertilization happens once a flower has been produced. Pollen is going to be transferred from the male part of the flower to the female part, and you'll see a pollen tube grow down where it will move down throughout the female part of the flower. So here's the pollen, gets onto the top part of the pistil, and the pollen tube will grow down, and that pollen, which is really the sperm from the male part of the flower, will fertilize the egg and produce an embryo. So that's where we have the seed coat will form, new seeds, seeds start to germinate, seeds go through plant development, they produce more seeds, and the cycle continues on and on. Okay, we have several ways that pollen can be transferred. Wind takes care of some plants like grass, since it doesn't produce a flower. But then we have animals too, insects, birds, mammals. All of these types of animals sometimes will act to move pollen from one plant to another. This is just a basic idea of how pollination occurs. So an insect could land here on the male part of the flower, pick up some pollen, then travel to another flower, land and possibly walk across or brush across the female part of the flower, leaving some of that pollen behind. And that's how the pollen tube would then start to grow. Step 4 is seed production. So once the ovule is fertilized, it develops into a seed, and a lot of times fruit will develop around that. It'll protect the seed, but also draw insects and other animals to that particular structure to help them move their seeds around or disperse them. There are several ways that seeds can be dispersed. They can be moved by the wind. Some examples would include dandelions, maple trees. You've seen the little helicopter things for maple trees, and cotton plants. Some seeds are dispersed by water. A good example of that would be the coconut. It can travel lots of miles in the ocean before it finally lands on a beach and then starts growing a new tree. We've all seen this, where animals come in covered with hitchhikers, and that's a way that animals can help move seeds around. Some animals will bury seeds, and others will eat them and then disperse them in different locations. So you have to definitely know the order that the life cycle of a flowering plant goes through, and so we'll start with germination. Step 2 then would be plant development. Step 3, fertilization, and step 4 would be seed production. Look at that. Wow, we got that in the wrong place, huh? Let's fix that. There we go. Seed production. Okay, I like that better. Looks better. Okay, so those would be your 4 stages. And also, you need to make sure that you can match these up. Water, digestion, seed dispersal methods, burial, wind, and clinging. Okay, so these are all different ways that seeds can be dispersed. And there you have it. Your notes for plant reproduction, the life cycle of a flowering plant, are complete.